Well, Syrian rebels have appointed Mohammed al-Bashir as the country's interim prime minister. He'll remain in the post until March in order to lead the transition to the new government. Russian state media is revealing that the ousted Prime Minister, Bashar al-Assad, is seeking asylum in Moscow. Joining us now is Senior Fellow at the Centre for Defence Studies, Professor Matthew Sussex. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for your time as always. Just how big a blow is Assad's demise for Moscow and for Vladimir Putin?
Well, look, Ash, it's quite a significant one. The naval base that the Russians operate on the Syrian coast at Tartus, as well as the air base that they have very close by, is really important for Moscow's sort of geopolitical footprint, I suppose, in the Middle East. But particularly because that naval base ships people as well as weapons to support Russia's various activities in Africa, in the Central African Republic, in Mali and so forth, where it's gotten itself quite a toehold. Now, those bases, the safety of Russian sailors is probably going to continue to be assured by the new government in Syria, but I very much doubt they would want to allow Russia to keep those bases open for any length of time. So Russia loses out, I think, because of this, not just in terms of its fairly heavy aspirations in the Middle East, but also in terms of its ability to resupply its activities in Africa. And so for Vladimir Putin, that's quite a significant blow to his prestige, with the toppling of Assad, who he supported for a decade, now of course having to flee to Russia itself.
And the Kremlin is saying that Putin authorised that asylum for Assad in Russia. While he's there, he's obviously unlikely to face justice for any of the atrocities that we know he's been overseeing in Syria.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a rather strange knee-jerk reaction, I think, by Putin to agree so quickly to give Assad asylum. You'd think he probably would have been better off just to see which way the wind was blowing in terms of the Syrian rebels taking over, where they would like to negotiate with Moscow if in fact they do at all. But nonetheless, he's decided to say, Assad can come and stay here, which certainly means that Russia isn't going to give him up to a criminal court because it doesn't participate in that regime. But the new Syrian government will definitely want Assad back. They'll want to put him on trial. And you'd think that Moscow would resist that, but it just depends how much, of course, it's willing to tolerate Assad in Russia being potentially a problem to it.
And when we look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, we learned this week that 43,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed since Russia invaded. That's the number coming out from the Ukrainian government. The US analysis is suggesting the number's closer to 70,000. After so much death and destruction, what's your expectation as to how that conflict plays out as we head into 2025?
Well, look, Ash, basically all bets are off until Donald Trump takes over and we see what kind of peace plan he's prepared to put on the table to try and get both Zelensky and Putin to negotiate. Some of them, the ideas that have been floated are for a demilitarized zone, a big demilitarized zone in Ukraine that would effectively, I think, hand Russia a de facto victory. Some of them also say that the Americans will flood Ukraine with weapons if Putin doesn't come to the table. It's up to him, I suppose, but he still has an incentive to keep fighting. And I think that's the case, really, until Trump takes over, that both sides will continue fighting as hard as possible. And in the Russian context, that means trying to take as much territory as they can. And from the Ukrainian point of view, trying to just exact as much damage on Russian energy, Russian logistics, and also Russian personnel as possible before that inauguration next year.
Matthew Sussex, appreciate your analysis. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash.